Good morning you guys, it's Karen and welcome to my new channel, Mrs. Ginger's Health. I set up this channel because I had put a video up on my painful bladder syndrome, and I've got two channels. I had two channels, I've now got three. I had Mrs. Ginger's Beauty and Mrs. Ginger and her dog, and I had put this on Mrs. Ginger and her dog, but it just didn't feel right. I felt like it was out of place. That channel is pretty much for dog related stuff, and then my beauty channel is beauty related stuff. So I thought, why not have a separate one for health? I've certainly got enough conditions that I can think of many videos to put on here, and it will be more dedicated, and you guys can request videos, etc. So that being said, I thought it would be a good idea to let you know all of the conditions I've got, and actually writing it all down and doing a video on it feels a little bit kind of self-indulgent. It feels a little bit like, oh woe is me, or you know, like I'm feeling sorry for myself. I'm definitely not. Looking at all of these, I'm actually quite proud of how much I do in my life, and how much I get on with. And you know, I don't feel like at the moment I've got a terrible quality of life at all. And always the point of me doing videos on my health was to try and help other people, and to maybe give you some idea of the things that I have tried that have worked, and to talk about my coping mechanisms. Just to quickly let you know, in case you're new to me, I worked a lot of my life in hotel management, and then I made a career change and started in the NHS, and I've always loved anything medical. I've been obsessed with anything medical since I was a teenager. And so I started working towards a degree, but I didn't get as far as the degree in health sciences. I got a HND. A long story why, and I've done a video over on my beauty channel actually that I'll try and upload here in case you're interested exactly what I did at the hospital, etc. But I worked in medical research, so I was there 10 years and I absolutely loved it. But I took redundancy, voluntary redundancy, about 3 years ago now, I think, maybe even more. And a lot of that was to do with my health conditions, which have actually improved since then. So, like I said, I thought I'd tell you all of the conditions that I have, and I thought I'd maybe also do another video telling you all the medications I'm on, because then you can either request a video on any particular health concern, or, and this is mental and physical, or you can request a video on any of the drugs I'm on and I'll tell you all about it. So, conditions. I've tried to sort of group them. So there are, I suppose the main one is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I have hypermobility type. And a lot of people don't realise now that it used to be called hypermobility syndrome, but it's now called Ehlers-Danlos hypermobility type. And so this causes all sorts of problems. Ehlers-Danlos in itself is just, it's a connective tissue disorder, but it causes joint pain because basically everything in your body is too loose. And so everything that I do, if I go for a walk for half an hour, what the rheumatologist told me is that my body takes the impact as if I've been for like 4 or 5 times that. It's almost like my body reacts as if I'm an athlete. If I just do an hour's walk, it's like I've done 4 or 5 hours. So the result of my Ehlers-Danlos means that I have arthritis in a lot of my body. So I've got it in my hands, I've got it in my knees. I've had an arthroscopy on my knee, so I've already had some of that cleared out. But my knees are probably where I've got the most pain from arthritis. I've got it in my hands, I've got it in my elbows, I've got tennis elbow and golfer's elbow, all of those kind of things in my hands. Where else? What else I was thinking, sorry, is related to this. I don't know if it's related or not, but I've got something called Dupuytren's contracture. So at the end of this finger here, I've got a little lump growing on it, and the finger apparently will start to bend, and then I won't be able to straighten it, and then other fingers will follow on. But funny enough, the most pain in my hand I get is in my right hand, which I suppose is probably because I'm right-handed. So you'll find that I can't reply to many comments on Instagram because I find it very difficult to type on a phone, and even with my headaches, which I'll tell you about, I find it difficult sometimes to sit at the computer, but my headaches are fairly well under control just now. So tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, arthritis. The tennis elbow and golfer's elbow doesn't affect me too much. It's actually been painful lately, but I think that's because I've been walking Watson more, my dog, and when he pulls on the lead, it hurts my elbows. Or when I'm in the bath, sometimes if it's a bit inflamed, it does sort of hurt if I put my elbows against the edges of the bath, but otherwise it's not something I really notice that much. I have headaches, a mixture of headaches. I have sometimes migraines, although I haven't had a migraine for a long, long time, and I have cervicogenic headaches. Cervicogenic headaches were probably the biggest health concern I had when I took voluntary redundancy from the NHS, and I was already working from home because of a lot of health conditions. But I've recently been able to manage them much better because of a physio I went to. So I've done a whole video on that. Have I actually, did I talk in that video about how much the physio helped me? I'm not sure. The physio has given me these exercises and also this cushion. I use this neck cushion whenever I'm sitting at the computer, whenever I'm sitting in the car, if I'm driving or not, even if I'm a passenger. That seems to have helped a lot. And then she does this manipulation where she presses into the back of my neck, which is painful, but it seems to help in the long run. And I'm waiting for a referral to the pain clinic because I am on a lot of pain medication for the headaches. So headaches, occasional migraines, but mostly cervicogenic headaches. I have GERD, which is gastroesophageal reflux disease, or GORD. It's called different things, and that is thought to be as a result of the Ehlers-Danlos. I'm not exactly sure how it's connected, but that is controlled again with medication. I'm on medication for it, and that just manifests in, you know, certain foods will give me indigestion. I get palpitations from eating certain foods, and I also occasionally have these sort of choking incidents where, like, if I eat peanuts, sometimes it makes me choke afterwards. It's really bizarre. So that's no fun, but it doesn't happen very often. And like I said, mostly it's controlled with medication. And I know what I can and can't eat, you know. I think that's everything that's related to the Ehlers-Danlos. I also have high blood pressure and high cholesterol, both of which are genetic, so i.e. not able to be controlled by lifestyle. And I know that because I did try with my blood pressure, and when I was like 3 stone lighter than I am now and very, very healthy, it still didn't make a difference. So I'm happy to talk about that in a separate video. But my high blood pressure is actually not high at the moment because it's controlled with medication. My cholesterol, I'm not yet on medication. It's something they're keeping an eye on. And I'm hoping that I might be able to affect it with this keto diet that I've been trying. In relation to my heart, I have an irregular heartbeat, have had for many years. It's just called an ectopic beat, and that may be related to the Ehlers-Danlos, but I've more recently found out that I've got an enlarged heart, so it's called left ventricular hypertrophy, and I'm waiting for a referral to cardiology to have an echocardiogram, and that will look to find out why my heart is enlarged and if it's something to do with the uncontrolled blood pressure for years or if it's to do with a leaky valve or something like that. So I'm on the waiting list for cardiology. I'm also on the waiting list for my knees, for my knee pain, to see if I need another operation. So like I said, I've already had one on my knees. I have polycystic ovary syndrome and hyperinsulinemia. Not everybody with polycystic ovaries has a problem with insulin, but a lot of people do. And so I was tested for this particular condition, which is called hyperinsulinemia. It means that basically my insulin doesn't work properly, and so I do get hypos. I do test them and make sure I have some sugar to bring it back up again, although again I've been doing the keto diet for a couple of weeks, and I did have a hypo in the first week, but I've not since had one, and I did use protein to bring my sugar back up and it worked. I'm not quite sure how, but it did work. So yeah, polycystic ovary syndrome. The way that manifested with me was I had extremely bad acne, very, very greasy, oily face and hair, and I just felt very low mood, very tired all the time, you know, just sleepy and lethargic. But that is currently controlled with medication as well. Really successfully controlled with medication, although there are side effects. It's called cyproterone, but like I said, I'll do a separate video with all my medication. I also have endometriosis, which I have had an operation for, but I have to say over the last sort of 3 or 4 years, my endometriosis hasn't been so bad. I don't know whether that's just age, or I don't know whether that's because of the medication I'm on to control the hormone balance, but I don't have quite as much pain as I used to. And the only other thing is painful bladder, which I've already put a video up on, and so you know about that. And I would say the things that currently affect my life that are not managed, my knee pain, although I do find I have got some things that help it, and you know, I'm not limping all of the time, I'm limping some of the time. The headaches to a greater or lesser degree, although I'm managing them at the moment and they're not quite as bad. And then the bladder thing, which I've talked to you about. But even those three, I still feel like I've got off lightly. I know a lot of people with Ehlers-Danlos hypermobility type that are much worse than me, in a lot more pain than me, are just lying in bed every day. And I have to say, sometimes it's very hard to get up in the morning, and makeup is one of the things that always got me out of bed. You know, I would wake up and I'm in so much pain, it's really difficult to be motivated to get up and start a day where you know you're going to be in pain. But if I had like a new eyeshadow look that I was planning or something like that, that would get me out of bed, and I think, right, just go and do your eyeshadow and see how you get on. And I'm very lucky just now that I am working from home, as in I have now 3 channels that I'm doing. This doesn't provide, you know, I mean, and the income it provides is about £6,000 a year. So it's not a huge income, it's not a proper income. But I'm able to do that because my husband got promoted about a year ago and is the director of his company. And so I would still love to work. And if I can ever go back to work, it would be fantastic, because we would then be able to afford to move to a place with a proper garden, etc, etc. That's a whole nother video. A lot of the reason I haven't gone back to work is I did intend to go back to the NHS, but I couldn't work for them for 2 years. Part of your voluntary redundancy is you can't go back to work for them for 2 years. And at the 2-year mark, I was just struggling so much with my health. It's kind of complicated because I was working for the NHS and working from home because of my health conditions, but you almost have to be in the NHS working as normal and then request working from home. I feel like to request it from the outset, I don't think I would get a job that way. And additionally, the car parking system has all changed. I had a car park pass, but again, you need to be in the NHS to go on the waiting list. And without the car parking, there's absolutely no way of getting to the 2 hospitals that I worked in. So it's a bit of a shame, because I do see lots of jobs coming up that I would love to do. But I think I'd struggle to be able to do YouTube at the same time. And I've also been trying to get on top of these health issues. My cervicogenic headaches probably would have prevented me from working for the last little while anyway, because I wouldn't want to start a job and then be off sick, etc, you know. And over the few years I have dabbled in businesses. I had my own grooming business, which was very successful, but I had to give it up because of the joint pain. So I went off on a bit sideways there, didn't I? But hopefully that's interesting to you. So the only thing left is mental issues, which for me thankfully aren't too many, but I do suffer with anxiety, and what the psychiatrist told me was hypervigilance. Hypervigilance just due to my upbringing, if you like, but anxiety, I've always been anxious. I've had anxiety since I was young, but it got very bad over the last sort of 5 to 10 years. It got extremely bad that I was an absolute nervous wreck, and so I was able to see a psychiatrist because I was working in the NHS. Normally you'd see a psychologist, but I was able to see the psychiatrist about that. And I still do suffer with anxiety, but again, it's not something now that affects my everyday life, whereas it did at a point, and I found a lot of coping mechanisms for it. I think that's everything on my list, and I hope that, like I said, it didn't come across too self-indulgent. I'm certainly not somebody that sits moping around. In fact, I'm the opposite. Kev, my husband, is always annoyed at me that I don't sit down. You know, if my knee's hurting, I'll still be limping around doing things. And that even if I'm ill, I'm still up at 6:30 with him. And I don't really stop during the day. Even if I'm sitting down doing something because things are hurting, I'll find something to do sitting down. You know, I'll do my ironing sitting down or whatever. And it can appear from all of these that I am a hypochondriac. That is something that somebody left a comment once about, and you know, people were furious because hypochondria is an actual mental condition as well. But it's not something that I believe I have, because I have been diagnosed with these things, and yeah, I'm not really that sure how hypochondria does manifest, other than, you know, maybe something happens and you think it's a lot worse than it is, that kind of thing. So anyway, that's everything about me. I hope that you found that interesting, and like I said, feel free to request a video on any one of these conditions, and I will tell you more about it, how it manifests itself, how I'm dealing with it, what tests I've had, what medication I've tried, and yeah, I'll take it from there. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again soon.